So sonic branding or audio branding, it's pretty interchangeable, is a system of music and sounds and effects that are specifically, exclusively designed for and around a brand to create an emotional impact in the audience and alter their behavior in some way.
Good morning. What are some sounds, jingles, music, or ditties that you associate with your favorite brands? Today's guest, Ben Williamʻs, is owner of Bold, or Brand Out Loud Design. He's a creative director and an expert that knows exactly how important it can be to have a sonic brand for your business. Welcome to the 15-ish minute coffee chat. Today we're talking about the power of audio branding and how sound can make your brand stand out. Hi, Selena.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah.
Happy last episode of season 10.
I know. Can you believe it's our last episode? I can't believe it, but I'm very excited.
Yeah, I know. And how's this? We have like a guest all the way from like over the pond, across the pond. I don't, what's the term? Anyway, I'm excited. So, and like all morning, and you wrote something on LinkedIn and I was like, gosh, that's so true, right? Like, what would your sound like? And Anna had said, like, what did you say, Anna? Like,
I wanted it to sound like sunshine. If I had I wanted it to be lighthearted and happy and sound like sunshine. That's what my sound would be. But I have no clue about how to get there. So I'm really excited for today's conversation. I feel like it'll give me kind of that, I don't know, the how-to, like the steps to getting to creating a jingle. I'm not even a jingle necessarily. It literally could just be like, ta-da.
Yeah. I'm like, do I pick no, I want my own, there's a lot of I was doing extra research on Ben and what sonic branding is and what he does to it. And I'm like, this is so cool. And so, but I am the very least musically inclined person on this show today. You put it in a Spotify playlist for me and I'm like, yes, I'm gonna jam to it. But how you got it, I just don't know. I don't get it. I don't like. So, but yeah. And guys, I'm just gonna warn you, it's possible Anna and Ben may break out into song today. Okay, so be ready.
I am not opposed, but you got to drop in the comments what you want to hear. What kind of music are we into today?
Yes.
Beyonce? Are we doing musicals?
I'm Lizzo. That's who I'm channeling. So I'm gonna ask Ben.
Country western.
No, that's not my vibe. Even though we live here in Texas, my vibe is not country western. But there's great songs.
Yeah. Before we get too far into it, though, I do want to ask anyone who is listening right now, or even if you're catching the replay later, what is your favorite sound, or what is a sound or music that you associate with a favorite brand?
Yeah.
Because I think we hear sounds all the time that we don't realize we're associating with something else, right?
Yeah.
When we decided to do this live stream, I was thinking, I don't really know any jingles anymore because I don't watch TV, right? Everything's streamed. When I was a kid, I could sing you every jingle from when I was a kid, It's Tom Peterson's soup,
Told you it's starting and Ben's not even on yet.
But they were super familiar because I saw them over and over again when we were watching commercials or something like that. But now the way that marketing is done now, in my head, I was thinking, I don't know any ditties until I started doing that little bit of research. And then it dawned on me how many brands actually do have sounds that associate with them.
Yeah. I'm not going to jump ahead to the toolkit, but you're going to love the toolkit that we're sharing today. All right. Yeah. Okay. So whenever you're listening, please put in what your favorite sound or music is. I'm going to throw another rogue question, but how Anna says she imagines sunshine. Tell us what you imagine your sound to feel like or look like.
Your brand sound.
Yeah. I'm super curious. Okay. Should we just Annie?
Yeah, let's do his bio and let's get Ben on here so that we can start having the conversation.
All right, guys, here is Ben's bio.
Ben William's is the founder and creative director of Brand Out Loud Design, or BOLD for short, a sonic design agency that uses strategy and sound to help brands and changemakers turn up the volume. BOLD uses insight, creativity, and design to translate your brand personality into custom music and sound that will resonate with your listener and create a connection so strong they'll know you with their eyes closed.
I love that. Are we ready to bring him?
Yes, bring him on.
Hi,
And 2, 3, 4.
I don't know. That came too fast for me. I wasn't prepared. Ben is here.
Yeah.
How you doing, guys?
Hi, Ben. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
Yes. I'm excited.
We have our first drop in. He wants epic. John wants epic. That's his brand sound. Mm-hmm. I'm imagining like, I don't know, thundering horses and war cries or something.
I was like imagining, right? Lord of the Rings epic. That's where I went with that, but I don't know if that's correct. But Ben, let's get in. We just want to do our typical coffee selfie that we love to do with our guests, whether you're having tea or water. Oh, I love your mug.
I know.
Okay. All right. On 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Like imaginary person takes it and then we, All right, let's get into it because there's a lot of questions that we have and I'm super excited. Again, we did talk about having musical dinners and now Ben is invited to Texas.
You're going to have to come all the way from Scotland though, right?
Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah.
Of all the places, he's going to come to Texas first. All right, let's do this.
Okay.
Yeah, let's jump in. Let's get going.
Let's start with kind of the basics, right? So what is sonic brand or audio branding and how can it help your business? Let's just get like the very foundation of what we're talking about out of the way to start.
Sure. So sonic branding or audio branding, it's pretty interchangeable, is a system of music and sounds and effects that are specifically, exclusively designed for and around a brand to create an emotional impact in the audience and alter their behavior in some way. So that's the kind of clinical way of putting it. But it's essentially the audio expression of your brand personality.
I love that. Like it hits another sense, right? In a person about your brand. Like it's not just the visual or the
exactly. It's I mean the closest analogy to what we do would be a visual design agency, or at least a visual design agency that does brand strategy as well. So, you might go and see a visual brand agency and they design you a logo and they'd also design your banners and your website and all the other kind of things that come off. They're all things that you need. They're all assets, but then none of them individually are the visual brand. The visual brand is something much more essential and central, and it's based around your brand, your vision, your values, your mission, who you are as a person, who your audience is as a person, and how those two things can overlap and resonate with each other. So it's kind of like figuring out what side of you most resonates with your audience in the context of what they're trying to achieve and what they need from you. So they might be looking for a guide, or they might be looking for a friend, or they might be looking for someone who can transform things into magic and wonder, like Disney or something like that. So that's basically the job, is to kind of try and portray that and convey that to the audience.
Yeah.
Yes, Akila, it is totally an interesting concept. Okay, this is a total rogue question, and I'm sorry, Ben. So obviously you can copyright. Can you copyright your audio brand that you create for yourself? Like what is the music ramifications on that?
There is a very deep, dark well that we're about to fall into. But I will say, the way that it's done generally is through licensing, in the same way that a website might be designed by someone and then licensed kind of forever to someone. That's the way that music is generally done. Traditionally, music is kind of non-exclusive. Most music is non-exclusive. So, when you go and license a track from a stock site, you have no idea where else that has been or where it will be, and that can come with baggage as well. And similarly, when you license a known track, which is very hard to do, but if you had the kind of the muscle to go in and say, I want a U2 song or something for my brand, you don't know what it means. It's already been out there. Do you know what I mean? So one person's inspirational track is somebody else's breakup record. So baggage with music as well.
Gosh.
And the power of a custom exclusive track is that it doesn't come with any of that baggage at all. It means only in exactly what you want it to about you.
Okay.
So.
That right there really like just like hit an aha moment for me, right? Like my epic theme song is somebody else's breakup track. Like, so it is, would you say it's better then to come up with your own personalized sound, song, jingle, whatever it is that you're creating for your band? Is it better to come up with your own unique personalized one as opposed to snipping something from someone else's already created masterpiece, I guess?
It's kind of it's the classic expert answer, it depends. But I mean, most big brands, they have a strategy that uses all of those tools, you know? So McDonald's has been doing the forever for at least 20 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And everybody knows it, and that is the McDonald's brand globally. But they don't just use that, and they don't always use it. You don't hit it all the time. And if they're having a specific campaign, they might choose to use something else, salsa music for some specific product or something like that. So the answer is it depends, really. I think if it's your core brand, like your audio logo, for example, the thing that you're going to put on the front of every single or almost every single piece of content you put out there that does that drip, drip, drip thing of like, oh, it's them, you know, that should be, in my opinion, that should be original, and you don't want that to be anywhere else, really. And particularly because, as I said before, you don't have control over what it means to people then, because they might have heard it on some commercial or some film they hated, or you just don't know. So I always think it's like if you're Microsoft or something, you don't just kind of throw up different colors and put it in Comic Sans. You stick with
right.
But you never know.
How dare you, Comic Sans? Is that what you just said?
This is not the 90s.
So that's what I'm saying, basically. Yeah, it's like it's always better to have something that is either original or you've found a way to make it a bit more unique.
Okay, so let's throw out some examples of what sonic brands might be. You threw out like the McDonald's jingle. I know there's ones. I sang one from my childhood, one that I saw on TV all the time, right? Tom Peterson, and he was a salesman, and I loved his jingle, but I can still sing it now, right? So what are other like familiar brand, sonic brand or audio branding, I guess, tunes, I guess I would say? I don't know. I'm probably using all the wrong words, but.
So the difficulty with this is it's everywhere, and it predates the term audio branding, I think. So I think this has been going on for a very, very long time. But I will say that the first thing that most people think of as an audio brand is the ba-da-ba-dum Intel thing from the early 90s. That was the first time, and that was a company called CZM Son in France, and they were the kind of the masters, because they managed to find a way to kind of almost give a personality or a recognizable personality to something that's basically an ingredient that you will never see in your life. You'll never hold an Intel Pentium processor, probably. Most of us won't, unless something's gone very badly wrong. So yeah, that's probably the first big one. And then you see it through McDonald's, and all the big brands will do it. But if we're talking about audio logos, then you can think of McDonald's and Intel, and there's lots of examples. But there's also examples of, audio branding is any sound. that's being used to kind of influence behavior in some way. So I don't know, if it, even just something simple like, or, you know, you'll get like a ding on your phone and you go, give it to me now. That is not necessarily a positive example, but it is an example of the power of sound to influence behavior.
Yes. Like you just made me think of like, you know, when I go to Vegas and those casino, like ding, 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 like it's right. Like,
yeah,
obviously that sound does not need to be there anymore, but there's that psychology behind it. That's like, gets my adrenaline pumping.
Exactly. So there are bongs and things. I mean, it's used in almost every customer touch point you can think of. If a company, I'll give you an example of a company that's done it really, really well, won many awards recently, and that's MasterCard. So they introduced an audio brand for MasterCard, and they put the full weight of their company behind it, which is, you need to kind of get behind something like this when you do it, or, you know, it's got to be, as they did, from top to bottom. They did a big video, big release, big PR and all of that, but then they implemented it all the way down the chain through their marketing, all the way down to, certainly in this country, when you put your MasterCard on the contactless payment machine, it goes, it plays the tune. So, you know, it's like everywhere you go, every time it's playing. And then they did it, different versions in, you know, if you go to New Delhi, you'll hear a gorgeous version of it with very different rhythms and drums and things than if you're listening to it in, you know, Western Europe. So it's a way, just like with visuals, it's a way of kind of tying together campaigns and your brand across different touch points, territories, time, and it evolves over time. But it's so much more powerful when it's combined with visual. It's more than like twice, it's more than the sum of its parts kind of thing. So
no, it's like the icing to the visual, right? Like it just, I don't know.
Well, it's more fundamentally, I mean, like Spotify had a report that showed audio advertising was, I think, 4.4 times more effective than visual advertising, visual billboards.
That makes sense.
4.4, that's significant.
But there was another a major study done, which I quote a lot, where they found that if the visual and the audio were aligned, if they were either created at the same time or very, very carefully chosen to work together really well, it was like 12 times the impact. And in this day and age where, you know, we're so good at tuning things out, you know, we're bombarded with messages all the time, and our brains are very good at that. Just go, that's noise, I'm not interested. And it takes something extra to kind of break through. And then when you combine that with the number of times and the number of ways you interact with your audience or your customer where they can't see you these days, you know, it's like, I think globally our screen time's still going up rapidly. Sorry, our time on the internet is going up online, but the screen time's going down. So because people are kind of they're out running and they're voice searching for a podcast, and they're not looking at a brand. They need to hear it.
You heard it here, folks. It's actually the cake, and visual is the icing, I think.
Yeah.
I know that actually makes so much sense when you say that like that, because you're right. How many screens do I have open? How many, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have a podcast on my phone as I'm doing this. And, you know, I mean, not right now, not during your interview, because you're very important, but you know what I mean? So that makes sense. Like,
we're all multitasking like crazy, and that's why audio has kind of had this massive resurgence, I think.
So I'm curious, can I, okay. So we're talking about like these massive major companies right now, right? Like the McDonald's, the Intels, the Microsofts, the, you know, all of these, the MasterCards, these giant companies that have like, you know, billions of dollars in their campaign. What about the small business owner? Like, what are we talking about for a small business owner that might have less than 10 employees or be an solo entrepreneur, right? Is audio branding still something that's feasible for them? And is it as useful as these bigger brands? Like, how do we implement it in like that more compact, smaller arena.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because for me, I mean, part of the kind of journey on this was, I've spent a long time kind of thinking, what am I missing here? Because it is just the preserver of the Fortune 500, really, and yet the importance of brand and personality and connection for a small business and an entrepreneur running that business is greater than ever, and there isn't a lot out there at all. And it was something that I came to slowly, because I think it was the way I was brought up. I was like, what am I missing here? So there must be a reason why nobody's doing it. But what I found is that the minute I started doing it, people were really interested, and it's really taken off. And the thing that I like about it is, my previous life, I worked with big brands and things, doing kind of experiential events and music related outdoor things. And I would prefer to do this. I think if you said, do you want to sit in a boardroom and come up with an audio brand, or do you want to work with an individual or a small group of people and figure out who they are? It's much more intimate, much more interesting, and potentially much more impactful as well, because you can have a much bigger impact in a small company environment sometimes.
100%.
And what I've seen, sorry.
No, go. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, what I've seen, my other business with my other hat on is podcast launches and podcast production and editing and all that stuff. And you get asked a lot about marketing and promotion and how to grow and all of those things. And a lot of the time, the issue is people are trying to fix strategic issues with tactics. And what I found a lot of the time was it was more about positioning. And how do you position a podcast? It's an audio format, so it's really important. It really helps. The real eye-opening one for me was I worked on a show called All Things Tudor, and it was a lady from Nashville who wanted to start a podcast about Tudor history. And you think, okay, fine. So you have a look at the other Tudor history podcasts that are out there, and history podcasts in general, and they're very dry, kind of audio essays about things, and mostly, funnily enough, historians reading their books out, essentially.
Okay.
And Deb was nothing like that. She was a Nashville gal with a rock and roll background. She was a rock and roll journalist, so she spent most of her life touring with bands, writing kind of reportage on them and stuff. And she was like a force of nature. So that one, we just took, we wrote some madrigal music, and I think it was more like I started writing this type thing, oh, this is really lame. And after about 4 or 5 seconds, I was like, but what if a rock band interrupted them? And so we went the other way. And if you watch shows like Peaky Blinders or any of those kind of HBO big budget historical dramas where they started using contemporary rock music and things like that, it was a no-brainer. And it positioned her show in the entertainment space, which is what she needed, because she was going up against much bigger established shows, National Geographic and other things like that. So she kind of put herself in the space all of her own, where it was more a fun, entertaining rock and roll take on Tudor history.
You guys are going to have to grab his toolkit, because there is that case study and you can hear that song and it is so good.
Yeah.
Like, so good. And it's interesting to hear Ben's process. I'm not going to spoil it, but that's in the toolkit. So you can actually see that.
Yeah, I was going to say the toolkit's going to come in helpful, because I think a lot of times people have a hard time visualizing what you're talking about, right? I mean, we're talking about sound here. And so in my head, sometimes I'm like, but I don't hear sounds when, and then I'm like, no, I do. I'm just not realizing I am. When a podcast plays the opening, even when we started our show, that little ding, ding, right? I mean, that is signifying people, get ready, get on your computer. It's time for the 15-ish minute coffee chat, right? Like, so I think that we don't recognize maybe consciously what's happening. But what you're saying is this is what's going to throw you to the top of the list, because that subconsciousness is going to be like, oh, I recognize that. I've enjoyed this. This is where I want to be in that space. And when you don't hear that same sound, it's like, this is the wrong one, whatever that might be.
Yeah, I think it's about, it's like, I was talking to a set designer the other day, or someone who was talking to a set designer, and she said that her friend was saying, like, if you want to show that someone is a grizzled workaholic detective with a drinking problem, you can tell them that, but it's much quicker and easier and more effective to put a cot bed in the corner of the office and put some whiskey bottles on the shelf that have fallen over a bit. And music's a bit like that. You can communicate a lot about who you are, your attitude, your values, your goals, your style, all those things in a few seconds with music, without having to, everybody has the same real attitude. Like, yeah, you can tell me that all day, but show me, and music is one of those things, a bit like smell. It goes, I mean, if you want the science, it goes to the amygdala before it gets to the top half of your brain. So you make a decision based on that, and then you start thinking, justifying that decision afterwards.
This is fascinating. Ben, I wanted to say there is somebody watching today. Annette she just finished music school, and we absolutely love her. She was very excited for today's, and she's kind of like in this new venture. And I even just said to her, like, maybe you should make like mine and Anna's podcast sound. So I think this is like awesome for her. Like, she's so excited, and hopefully I can connect you two offline. But
yeah.
No, I think what you're saying though, Ben, is yes, this is attainable to small brands.
It is. It is. It's about how you do it, really.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed is the world's moved on. So there are budgets, that would make your eyes go crossed for audio branding. But, with like 8, 9, 1,200% multiples and for like one territory on YouTube or something. But it's more like there's so much you can do now. You don't have to hire Abbey Road Studios and 60 musicians to have an orchestra. Not all the time. There's a place for that. And for me, it's like just being smart about what you do. So you might want to hire a solo violinist for a real human touch at a particular moment. But you don't have to do it that way. You can do it all in the computer with certain instruments and styles.
Okay, let me ask you like a weird question. So Anna comes from a musical family, and so I know she could be like, hey, yo, give me a sample of your violin, and then give me a sample of your piano, and I'm going to give it to Ben. And I'm going to see if he can do something with that. Would that be something you could actually do with an audio strategist? Like when you say, I have all these sounds and I love them, like I have no, see, you see,
Possibly.
I don't know. I'm going to say, okay.
Yeah, no, possibly. I mean, you can sample anything. You can use anything at all. I mean, I was looking at creating a synth, like a nice kind of synth sound, like a wishy synth sound out of birdsong and wind in bushes. You can turn anything into music. But I think it's more about, I mean, for me, the difference between like creating some custom music for someone and what we do is we're actually looking at your brand, your core brand, and kind of developing that into a persona.
Okay.
Then translating that, but it could absolutely be that.
Yeah.
If that's relevant to who they are as a person and a brand, then of course. But it's coming at it from the point of view of who are they, who is their listener, what are they trying to achieve, and why. And somewhere in there is like a crosshairs. It's like that's what
let's find the spot. No, that's
I feel like otherwise you would almost be stifling the creativity of the sonic brander, right? Because now it'd be like somebody handing you like a font and a color and then a logo design thing and saying, all right, now create my amazing logo, but you only get these 3 things. Not
just any font, Comic Sans font. That's what they hand you.
The choice of all primary schools since 1982.
So where would you use your sonic brand as a small business, right? Because I'm not advertising on TV. I don't got a Netflix spot. Maybe someday, right? But right now, that's not in my future. So is it something like, I mean, how would you use it on your standard social media platforms as a small business to make this really boost your ROI for your market? In fact, you know what? That's like our next question. So let me just throw this up there, right? How can you boost your marketing ROI with audio? Like, what are those like actual ways to utilize this to boom, make your business boom?
Okay, so let's start with the previous question very quickly, and then so we'll set the scene. So let's assume that you're a small business. You, like you said, you're not doing national television advertising or anything like that, but you do have, maybe you're starting or have a YouTube channel. You have a presence on social media, whether it's TikTok or Facebook or whatever it is that's your thing. And maybe you have a podcast. Maybe you do some live speaking engagements sometimes. Maybe you do webinars. So that sort of level of that mix, some of those things are going to be in the mix, let's say. So from there, you'd have a basic kit. The kind of thing that we create would be an audio logo, which would be something between 1 and 5 seconds long. That would be almost like your stamp that just goes on all of your social media content. So it could be anything, but if it's, they're going to hear that every single time, and that's your brand. As long as it's like absolutely unique to you, that's yours. So that goes on the front of everything you do. Okay. But let's say there's like a 5-note melody in there. We won't go with ba-da-ba-dum, but let's say you have a little tune in there. That is extended into a 2-minute piece of music. And inside that 2-minute piece of music are all the sections and all of the elements that make up your brand. And those pieces can be used in different touch points. So let's say, to come back to your question about ROI, let's say that you're putting out social media and you're speaking engagements like 1 a month, something like that. And you have a webinar that you do weekly. And your audio brand is on your short form content, but it's nowhere else. So that's like 10 places a month where people are interacting with you, but they're not getting the same consistent feeling from interacting with you, potentially. There's only so much feeling you can evoke with just a logo or something, a physical, like a visual logo. So every time you don't use it is a time you're kind of you're just leaving something on the table, basically. I'll give, like, call hold music is a massive one. And there are companies that do audio branding, call hold music, and nothing else. Call hold music is generally awful. Or quite often it's awful. It might even only be one song that just goes round and round and round and round. And you're sitting there on the phone going, when am I going to get to talk to someone? Now, as an example, and I've seen this done, press 1 for 80s, 2 for 90s, or 3 for 60s Motown. Immediately, the person who presses the next button, they're kind of buying into what's about to happen, and then they're kind of enjoying it more. So there's lots of ways to transform people's experience of your brand, whether it's watching your content, whether it's in store or a doctor's surgery or something like that. The music would be the same music, but there'd be a slightly more chilled version of it. It would be slower, it would be calmer, and would just keep people happy to be where they are, a little bit more happy at least to wait. And so it's how these things interact. So you might have a really cool, chilled version of that tune that's on your webinar while you're waiting to start your show. It goes in like your music at the beginning and it gets the energy going. But you might have like a club banger version of that for when you're talking live. Especially if you're speaking to large groups of people on a regular basis, that same 5-note melody is playing inside that tune, and it just keeps on going in there every time. And audio can go where visuals can't.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's almost like your entrance music, right?
That's
like
it.
This is what I'm envisioning right now. So I do see now how you could apply it. Like if you're doing a short reel, it starts with the sound and then there you are and you start talking, or like you know how you can add now a sound to like even like a static post. Even these days you can add a sound to it. So I do see where this could come in very useful for a small brand, a smaller brand, or even a very small brand, if they want to distinguish themselves and set themselves apart.
Yeah, it's like, so the concise version of it is you can increase the number of times that your brand is interacting with that person's brain, if I can put it that way, because they're hearing you as well as seeing you, and often they're not seeing you at all. So if you've got the audio in there at the beginning of the podcast, on the clips, while they're doing the washing up or they're working, it's still going in there. So you're increasing the number of times they interact with that. You're improving potentially the experience they're having with the brand and making it more memorable. And also you're just getting that kind of multiple factor of having an extra sense. It's like you're just adding something in that other people aren't using as well. So there is, at least now at the moment, there is a kind of a, novelty is the wrong word, but it's an edge that other people don't necessarily have because they're not aware of it.
Yeah.
And that's so, can I just, oh, sorry, Anna, a friend of mine recently released her podcast and she accidentally created a sound that I was like, this is so good. Like, I hope you're going to keep it in your trip. But it was a audio of her laughing with her kids.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, you know, they're teens and young adults. So it's like a very mature laugh, but like, and that's the vibe of her podcast. So she has it like in the intro of like her, and I'm like, this is good. Like, you just made me think about it. Like, but that sound is like explaining how she wants people to feel while they listen to her podcast.
Perfect.
And that's how she starts it. Right. So
perfect. Yeah. I started with, I think she's been on your show actually, April Garcia.
Yeah,
she sure has.
When I first worked with her, she was one of those people I worked with, and I heard a recording of her voice when like 2 seconds in, I'm like, I'm in. And she said something on that, like, so thanks, like, if anyone can help me with this, that'd be great. You guys are amazing. And that's on the end of every podcast episode, because I was like, that's her. It's like, you guys are amazing.
Oh, I see. So what Ben is saying, right? If you're feeling it and it makes sense, listen for the opportunities that could be your sound. It's right.
Doesn't have to be a clever thing.
Right.
If it embodies that feeling, that kind of vibe, that emotion, or something about you that you want to get across, use it.
Okay, this is our goal for the next while we're getting ready for our next season, Selena, is to come up with our signature sound.
Yes.
Whatever that might be, right?
Ben, I'm going to tell you, for my personal self, I'm like coffee, pineapple, because it's in my logo, and just aloha, laughter. And I don't know how those three would come together, but
so the sound of coffee pouring into a pot and then a nuclear explosion.
Yes, that is exactly it. Oh my gosh, that's exactly it. You got to love when you talk with other strategists and you can just kind of feel that, like, you know, okay. And I could ask, you got to stop me. I'll ask like 50 more questions.
Well, we're going to do one last question from the audience, because I am interested in this. What do you think about music on the background of a website? Is that an effective way to market?
No.
All right. I don't want to be the one to say it. I wanted you to.
It's such a good question, because it goes right to the kind of like, just because you can do a thing, it's the Jurassic Park principle, right? Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. It's all about context. And in that case, I find that's a very like Web 1.0 thing. I remember when like everybody was doing that, remember? And you go to a website and everything would start happening. And you're like, where's the off button? You don't want that. No.
Oh, that is such a great question. I'm in a website Facebook group, and a developer came in. He goes, so this was the request I got today. They wanted their logo very big in the navigation bar, and they wanted music. And everybody was like, my space is calling.
I mean, it's always, exactly. Yeah. MySpace is called. They want their idea back. I think it's almost like a permission thing to a certain extent. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's a human interaction. So if someone walks into a room, you don't go up to them and with jazz hands and start blurting what you do at them. You say, hi, how are you? You let them walk around for a minute before you talk to them. So no, I don't think so. But it still depends. I mean, if it's very subtle and very quick, I can imagine a situation where there could be a little sound effect or something, but I generally would stay away from it.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be it's really, there's a bigger strategy in play here, just like any other branding element that you would do, right? I mean, it might be when you hit that submit button, then a sound plays, or it might be like when you go to a certain page, there might be a little something at the beginning just to announce, hey, you are here, you have arrived, or, you know, something like that. But that if you inundate it and it becomes irritating, I guess, right? Now you've negated the effects of this lovely little song or sound that belongs to your brand. And now people are like, I hate that song. I don't hate it. Right? Like now you've got the exact opposite.
Hey, but John, I love you and I will support you. Just saying.
I threw him under the bus, so he threw me under the bus. I do jazz hands when I meet people.
Okay, so bad example, maybe.
Right.
I always like this one.
Oh, we can use that one, Anna.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like anything. It's like you can always tell when someone's just discovered a new tool, a design tool or something, because it's just everything's firing off. I've just discovered animation for my website and everything is animated. You know, it's like, it's just about like staying strategic and staying empathic and staying focused on, again, it's not about you, it's about them. Show them. Yeah, I mean, most of the time it's not about, I mean, that's the biggest thing I see. It's like, especially with sound, because it's a new thing and people get very excited. And when you get excited, you forget. Sometimes you just get carried away. And so it's not about showing people who you are. It's about showing them who they are, that you understand who they are. And as I said at the beginning, it's that overlap between you and them, that little Venn diagram moment in the middle there. So you are showing them something of yourself, but it's always with them in mind.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Remember.
Right. I mean, this is like one of those things we always come back to when there is a conversation about any kind of branding, is to remind the business owner, you may love it, but if it doesn't fit your ideal client, it's not the right thing, right? You are not necessarily your ideal client. So just to keep that in mind, and then how you utilize that. So, I love this so much. All right, let's share the toolkit, Selena.
Yeah, let's
toolkit. So
okay, let's do this. I'm gonna click a button and see where we're at, and then we're gonna up there, guys, up there. This, I downloaded it last week, and I was like, yeah, you know.
Can I just say, you guys are so on it.
Really?
This is really good.
Thank you. I you talk about animation. I am animation like.
Oh, but
I won't say that word.
But
yeah. Thank you. I know that was Canva, guys. Presentation. Ben, tell everybody what this toolkit is and why they need to have it.
Okay, so in the course of signing up new customers and talking to them, I get a lot of the same kind of questions. Not everybody's ready to go full audio brand yet. And so it was really to kind of plug that gap and give people an idea what audio branding is, because it is quite a niche topic, but also give them a few tips, tricks, tools that they can use to kind of inform them a bit better how they can choose sound that's going to have a better impact for them. You
guys get it today. I'm telling you. I put it on my little, I was like I said, I put it on my iPad, and I was just like with my pencil, and I was like highlighting, making notations, like notations for the person that's going to, create that coffee explosion of pineapple and aloha. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. So grab it. Anna put the link in the comments. So wherever you are watching this, go grab it. We will also post our blog so you guys can like grab all the show notes and the questions and all the lovely stuff there. So Don't not do it.
I've got both of them in there. If you go to our blog show notes, it's going to have all the ways you can connect with Ben. It's going to have a reminder of who he is and kind of all of his socials and all of that kind of thing, as well as the link to his toolkit. Or you can go straight over to the toolkit and grab that directly from his site. So worth it.
Yeah.
Go get it. I mean, I'm excited about audio branding. In my head, I'm going, what does sunshine sound like? Like, I'm excited now.
I'm curious, Ben, what does sunshine sound like to you? Like,
oh, so many ways you could go. It sounds like about 5 different things. I will go with the sound of a wine glass being tapped.
Ooh. Oh, that's interesting.
There's so many ways you can go.
Yeah.
NASA recently recorded the sound of the sun, turned it into audio. So you could go with that, but I'll go with like the tap of a wine glass.
Okay.
And
okay.
Yeah.
That's
pretty good.
That was my water jug. I don't know. That doesn't really fit with wine glass, but I tried it.
Okay. Right. John's like in the other room, like, I got a glass. Boom. It sounds like this. Okay. I love that. Okay. So again, grab the toolkit right there. You will not be sorry. Okay.
Yes.
Next, Anna is, so Ben, tell everybody like where to find you.
Well, you can find me, such as I am. I'm not a social media legend, but you can reach out to me. You can find out more all at brandoutlouddesign.com. There are links to Instagram and so on there. So if you want to head over there, you can have a look at my Instagram. There's not much on there, but there is some music and stuff. So yeah.
Ben, will you accept my connection request on LinkedIn?
I know, mine too.
I want to be your friend there.
I will do it straight after this.
I want to move from second to first connection.
You have found my zone of stupid.
Yeah. Ned has grabbed it already, Ben. Like, she's excited.
I know.
Oh my gosh. So go to all these places, guys.
Yes. And if you head to our blog, all of those links are going to be right there for you to make it easy.
Yeah. Anna, what's our tip jar?
Okay. So we love to leave our viewers and our replay viewers with a tip from one of our mini CPAs or bookkeepers on that support us. This one's from Caitlin Eldridge of Eldridge CPA. She says, your business team needs a few players: a tax professional, a lawyer, a bookkeeper, a financial planner, and a forward-thinking accountant. We're just saying, if you don't have somebody on your team that can do those things, if you're wearing all of those hats, you might be doing yourself a little bit of a disservice. So just think about it from a professional standpoint, where it's kind of like sonic branding, right? All of these players come in and they support you in a different way, a way that you might not have the skill set.
Way to tie that in, Anna.
Thank you very much. So, okay.
It's the end of the show.
I know. It's always the end of the show, and that makes me sad because Ben was our final guest for season 10 of the 15-ish minute coffee chat. Ben, we want to say thank you so much for being here. We are going to come back in August with a whole nother round of 10 amazing guests that are going to support small business and entrepreneurs and growing your business with all the best tips and tricks and information that you may or may not know very much about. So in the meantime, you can always find us at annaandselena.com. We love to hang out on LinkedIn, which is why we're asking Ben to please be our friends there.
All right. Come on, Ben.
Or as always, you can watch any of the 102 episodes on our YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button for us, or on any of the podcast platforms that you wish to go to, and you can listen to any of our past shows on any of the topics that interest you. So we hope that you come and find us in the next 6 weeks while we're getting ready for our next season.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, did you hear that? That was your do not disturb just went off. Oh. So apologies there.
No, totally. Yeah, Ben, thank you so much. Like, I'm so grateful. And, Ben and I are in a group together, and I've just been always so inspired by him and his like humor and his like knowledge. And I'm just so glad he said yes, because I know this is such like this is a topic that I think like we all need to talk about. Like, having a sound. Watch, everybody today listening is going to be like, ding. They're going to just like start tapping things and coming up with stuff. I don't know, but
I'm excited.
The revolution starts here.
Yeah, totally. Like, here's my problem right now, and this is what we have every time, Ben. I'm going to say, okay, we're going to say goodbye. And I hit our outro video that I did not add video or audio to yet. So I have to then hit the background music to tie in with that. So there's this lapse. And sometimes I hit the feeding the ducks sound by accident, or I hit lo-fi or into. So I don't know what I'm going to hit with you, but I'm going to try to do this eloquently because you are a sound expert.
No judgment here.
I feel pressure.
There's judgment from here, though.
Yeah.
There's judgment from here.
There's judgment from over there.
Yeah. Anna gives me crap every time we end. She's like, what was that one? I'm like, I don't know. I forgot.
Guys.
Yeah.
So I'm always excited to see how we're going to end our show, because it has been different every season, every time.
All right, Ben, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Anna, great 10th season. What a way to end it.
Woo.
So, yeah.
All right. We'll see you all the next time. Thank you.
Bye.